Hey, welcome back to No Prize Podcast. I'm the professor. That's Lucas. And we're ready to talk some comics and talk some Disney Plus and talk some anything else going on in the world of Marvel. What's going on, Lucas? How are you?
It is carnival season, and I can't really stay away from the spectacle that is carnivals. So I'm a little full and sugar high, hungover, and man, I'm gonna be a mess. But we're gonna slug through this. We're gonna slug through this.
Fried dough for everyone.
Yeah, but happy May 4th to everybody, and I
Oh,
hope
yeah.
everybody had a good free comic book day. And
Yeah, there was a
we will
couple of big
talk.
things.
Yeah, we will. We're going to talk to some of that and during the 2 minute warning, or actually, we're not calling it the 2 minute warning right now. We're calling it the seventh inning stretch, I believe.
We're giving you a little more time. Seventh inning stretch. We'll grow it. It'll be like the 15-minute fame next. And we'll just continue letting it take over. Yeah. So a couple of big things this weekend. We had the Star Wars weekend, May 4th. May the 4th be with you, everybody. I know that I went with my son, who decided to blow the money on getting tickets for the marathon. We were in a movie theater from like 8 o'clock Friday night all day yesterday, and did
True
9.
dedication. True
Oh,
dedication.
I'm not that dedicated anymore. I'm not spring chicken. I've seen all the movies 100 times on the big screen. Um, uh, you know, but the idea of experiencing it with my son, who had never seen the original trilogy on the big screen and was too little to remember the prequels. So that was a good time. So it was great to see it on the big screen. I know that we were just saying I could even just have sat down on my couch and watched it on Disney Plus, but
Yeah.
it was good to see it on the screen and in the movie theater with other people, and it was fun. People clapping still at the end of the movies and stuff. I'm like, who claps at the end of movies anymore? I don't know. It's also Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah. We cover there's some big, big books
Yeah,
that a lot of people are biting the crap out of now. Imagine free books, free
yeah,
comic book things, comic book books that are going for money on eBay. Uh,
yeah.
it's weird, but it's a thing now. I guess, and we're not talking about a couple pennies. We're talking about $10 to $15 for some of these books, and then but we will cover that during the
Yeah.
seventh inning stretch.
So just remember, Free Comic Book Day is a day to go out and celebrate your local comic book store and support them. Those books might be free to us, but the comic book stores have to order them and pay for them. So
Yes.
that is designed to support your stores. So go out and spend some money on comics this weekend, even though you might be coming home with a stack of books you didn't pay for. Pay for something while you're there, please.
Yeah.
So all right. Let's jump in because I know that we missed last episode, so we have a bunch of X-Men '97 to talk about. We talked about the first couple of episodes, and I think it was kind of a mixed bag on what everybody liked, right? So I don't expect to kind of go through this episode by episode, Lucas, but overall, what's your feeling on? I mean, there's only 2 episodes left, right? So we missed like 6 of them, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but there was some big things. I'd like to touch on episode 5, which was the Genosha episode, where I imagine it's not a spoiler anymore that one of the one of the original members of the animated X-Men team is no longer, which was actually a surprise for me because I expected a quick fix for that, right? I expected to be realized that it was like a Days of Future Past or something storyline, and that Gambit would be back amongst the living by episode 6, or the end of episode 6. And here we are. We've gone through the funeral, the goodbyes, and Rogue's laying in bed. This is going to be a long, drawn out storyline. If we ever get Gambit, they even replaced him on the team. They even
Yeah.
replaced his name card on the starting of the show. So, what do you think they're doing, man? You think it's good? You think it's a great homage show to the
Well,
'90s X-Men?
well, can we give an interesting like look back at the way we were when we first came into this, right? The first
Sure.
where we were talking about what in the heck happened. What is this going to look like? Because got to remember, the producer, the writer, producer, writer of the show
Mm-hmm.
got let go.
Yeah,
They
right
written,
before episode 1 came out.
yeah, they've already written season two. They did season two. They were already talking about season three, and he got let go right before it. And we're like, huh, I wonder why. And we're kind of thinking it was maybe the social media stuff, but it's not that bad, right? Just to freaking let this guy go.
No. Yeah.
Maybe they'll bring him back because a whole bunch of people have been liking the show. The first episode, the first portions of the show were a little like weird and iffy because uh we were like, why is Gambit in a halter top? That was a little weird, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but for the original context of what the X-Men were really came into their own are was saying, hey, there's a diverse world that's out there, right? And this is how these diverse people uh, have to kind of deal with the world around them, and this is how they are treated, right? Even there's a big wing to that and Sunspot, right? And how his parents treat him, and how he has to go home and he has to bring Julie home uh,
Mm-hmm.
for him as he's getting ready to tell his mom what the heck is going on with him. And that's a big wink to the LGBT community, and I really liked it. I really loved it, even though I don't like how Marvel deals with that issue in their books. That was a really freaking great freaking thing, right? And then of course his mom lets him be drug off to a camp to help fix him.
Oh yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
Jesus. Okay. Uh, and, and then there's the whole we talked about the Genosha thing, right? Where the mutants had a country or an island just for themselves, and they couldn't just be left alone. Then you had humanity, where you can send things to attack them and everything. Well, get I don't know if you want to say it on this show which country that is right now because we just had a huge big incident with that within the last few months. And in return, right now there's a whole big thing of protest and just vitriol going through this whole country um, regarding that, right? So
Yeah.
and gotta remember this was written before all that stuff was happening.
Yep.
So talk about timeliness. Holy crap, right?
Yeah.
Um, so the and then thirdly, the thing that sends shivers down my spine, and because once again, when they wrote this and they put this together, this wasn't really as big a thing as it was the Sentinels, right? The building of the Sentinels themselves, where humanity is so scared
Mm-hmm.
of a force that's could be more powerful than them, so they turned to the Sentinels to replace them in this as a proxy in this freaking war. And we know what's happening in the books right now. So there's really good layers that I wasn't really expecting, um, and I can't wait for season two. Now the coldest freaking bar, and I think the last maybe three episodes, I forget which episode it was when the main villains he goes and they're talking about what happened in Genosha and everything and why it had to happen, all this, and he goes, when your skin is not in the game, apathy is the answer. Right, because he's talking about how we tend to turn a cold eye when we all the stuff is going on and there's too much information just to even think about. So we just go, it has to happen, or somebody else has got to fix it. So that was one of the coolest lines that I've heard from a cartoon in
Mhm.
a while. What about you, Professor? What did you think?
The so I love the X-Men based just because you can do stuff like this, right? You can do stuff and do metaphors and all day long. And X-Men has always been a metaphor series to actual racial tensions, race relations, um, anything like LGBTQ stuff like that. X-Men has always been that safe space for you to just kind of go and kind of tell these stories and have them be acceptable to readers of all ages and in sexual orientations and skin colors. Um, just because it speaks to everybody, right? It speaks to the so when you come up and you actually when you use those actual metaphors, like that's the thing that's kind of throwing me in the current stuff with X-Men because uh everything is driven by LGBTQ at Marvel these days, right? So seeing those actual storylines instead of the metaphors, it kind of gives you that double layer that might be a little bit confusing. Um, but here, the storylines, and they're classic storylines that they're adapting here. So it's nice to see these adapted. There's no original story ideas in here. There's a couple of twists, especially with the episode 5 Gambit that I was talking about. Um, but you have Mr. Sinister doing Mr. Sinister stuff. You have Bastion. You have Magneto doing Magneto stuff. This is all nothing really new, but seeing it in today, like 30 years later, after Claremont originally wrote most of these storylines, um, it's it's super interesting to me, contrasted against what's actually going on in the country right now. That's what I think makes it so topical, is because people are watching this going, oh, that's just a metaphor for January 6th, or just that's just a metaphor.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
so lazy. That was so lazy when they did that. I was like, come on,
yeah,
guys.
I was sitting there going, oh, well, it's because you could throw anything. It's because it's so timely. It's because it's this stuff. It's not new. This is all stuff that's happening right now. That's happened before. And we
Hmm.
can't learn from our mistakes, and we just keep on doing the same shit. So X-Men is always going to remain timely for this. So you're going to be able to watch something and say, oh, this is because of this happening in the real world. And this is because of racial tension. So this is because of, you know, uh, gays in the military or whatever the heck, it's everything you're to be able to pick out, you know, if we're talking about like specific characters, I think they're kind of misusing Wolverine a little bit. Haven't really seen him do much.
Hmm.
Um, other than kind of whine and cry about being in love with Jean. That's about
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah.
Um, uh, but I like the fact that they're actually like they touted Bishop as being a member of the team, but he was in the first 2 episodes and then he took off with Nathan. We haven't seen him since. I imagine we'll probably see him in the last 2 episodes because now that Cable's back. Um, but they threw in the whole Cable is Nathan, so a little confusing if nobody they might need to explain all that stuff. Madeline Pryor, I like that they're kind of getting into the whole thing. I like they did Life Death because I love the character growth of Storm.
Hmm.
So there's a bunch of stuff going on. I like the addition of Nightcrawler. If you were going to replace Gambit, Nightcrawler would have been my number one pick.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so yeah, so the stuff, and you had already brought up the whole kind of subplot with Sunspot. Um, and what a lot of people don't remember is that this is exactly the Sunspot storyline in New Mutants. Sunspot was from Brazil. With his dad was kind of a corrupt person and didn't want Sunspot to be a mutant, right? It didn't really like that whole idea. So it was more of like that whole thing with Jubilee and Sunspot going and talking to the mom. The only thing they changed it was it's Sunspot's mom instead of Sunspot's dad. And
Yeah.
that's the only change that they made in that whole story. So I was thrilled about that because it really is, and it shows you how ahead of the times Claremont was. I guess,
Mm,
or maybe
ridiculously.
yeah, not really. I wouldn't really say ahead of the times, but dealing with issues that we were all dealing with back then that we none of us were talking about, right?
Yes. Hmm.
So and
90,
now,
97, we were only just now really talking about it. We were forced to talk about it because we were just kind of coming out of the AIDS epidemic
yeah,
and into AIDS and sex education was the phenom of the freaking day.
yep,
Um, so to talk about that, his whole situation and how it affected your parents, because that was another thing that was like you, because you really talked about, if you did talk about the LGBT community, you just talked about the LGBT community, but you didn't talk about how their parents treated them as well, right?
hmm
Because mostly their parents just said, "Well, not in my house," and just freaking left them out in the streets. Uh, but yeah, man, clear them out on the freaking dot. That was really good.
yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. I'm seeing how I'm interested in see how it's going to wrap up for the season one. We know we're getting season two. What did you think? Because the last couple of episodes have had a couple of high powered cameos in the MCU. A lot of people were talking about X-Men existing in their own little world and not really touching the rest of the Marvel universe. But we've seen Rogue go up against Captain America in episode 7, and then in the last episode, just kind of a background thing when Magneto is bringing all the Sentinels down to Earth. We see Spider-Man swinging through the city.
Yeah, not that stuff wasn't needed at all, right? That stuff wasn't
I
needed at all. What I what
that
I
yeah.
what I did like was Xavier out with the Sheer Empire. I did like that piece,
Yep.
right? Because with all the good stuff they were having there, they say, okay, by the way, this is what happened to Xavier. Because I was like, man, I was like, how much do I not understand what the heck was going on with Xavier and everything? But I was like, I'll just leave it. And then of course now they showed where he was actually at. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm not a complete idiot. All right, great. Um, yeah, so they're having him out with the Sheer Empire. He's married and everything. He's doing his own little. He's got his own little conflict going on with them because he's human, right? And they're
Yep.
like they don't want him to accept him as part of the royal family. Um, that's a dot 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 dot. Not much that I can overlay on what's going on right now, unless we want to talk more about the British Empire, or not the British Empire, the British royal family, because there is some weird stuff going on with that where they're not really accepting of what's her name, the actress that got married to the one prince. That's the only real weird thing. But then if they were going to do that, then they needed to give us a little bit more time and bring in more characters for the She Empire. But
Yeah, if you're new viewers or people that might not be up on what's going on with the Shi'ar Empire, that's one thing. But all of us all older readers that remember I mean, this was the Shi'ar Empire is huge in X-Men lore, and and this storyline is adapted to yet another Claremont story. So having Professor X out there in the Shi'ar, married to Lilandra. We'll see what they do with it. It looks to me like it's going to be a quick way to get Professor X back into the team by the end of the season. But I'm definitely looking forward to season 2 because I think what they're doing here more is kind of world building a little bit. And
yeah,
and we see Cap, we see Spider-Man next season, that might be just been a whet to the appetite to say, hey, the X-Men is part of a bigger whole, which they never did in the '90s series. So
yeah,
we'll see. I'm super excited about the show. I could see where some people might think, uh, that's the online, the socials have been saying how woke it is. But we said this last time we got together. Um, X-Men's always been woke. I don't know. I don't know what people are talking about. X-Men was woke. X-Men was woke for the '90s. People that when woke wasn't a word, X-Men was
yeah.
woke.
X-Men has
So
always been woke. You've got Wolverine and the threesome with the thing. You got Wolverine with Hercules running around with Hercules and all this other stuff, man. And you know the multitude of all these different characters that are just kind of doing their thing and coming into their own, man. And the monologues they give in the books is amazing. The stuff that's happening now with the Power of X, whether Power of X, House of X, I think it's
The
called.
rise of the powers of X and fall of the
Right.
House of
Yeah.
X.
It's
Yeah.
it's not so much. They left all that behind me because I don't know what direction they're going right now. Um,
I'm waiting for the
but
reset.
yeah. But once again, that sheer Empire stuff was good because it does introduce the Mcron crystal, which is heavily tied into what's happening in the books right now because you have to go into the Mcron crystal and hit it with the laser and do all this stuff in order to get the Mysterium that was a big piece of the X-Men universe right now. Number two, and Mr. and Mrs. Gambit or Mr. and Mrs. X. I think it might be Mr. and Mrs. X. That's one where Rogue and Gambit get married. They
Oh yeah.
do Jeff off to the Shia Empire, and they end up picking up an egg, which happens to have Charles and whatever her name is, his daughter.
Lalandra. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I
Landra.
remember that.
So definitely that was really good to see that maybe that's the direction they'll go. Like maybe season two, we'll get to see what was happening with Cable, what his whole deal with.
Hmm.
We'll get to see more of the Sheer Empire. Maybe we'll get to see a Krakoa. I don't know. I don't think we've seen Apocalypse. Yeah, we haven't seen Apocalypse yet here. But I would love if they break open the vault and show what was going on with Apocalypse, and not it's not Krakoa, it's Araco. I would love
Yeah.
to see some Araco stuff. Um, what else? And some sinister stuff. Give us some more sinister stuff, and then let's also open the tables on the White Queen, the Black Queen, the Red Queen, in season two. That way, when we get to season three, we have more context as to all this House of X, Power of X stuff is where they need to go to. So.
Yeah, I'd like to see some more of the mainstays of the X-Men team. I'd like to see Colossus. I'd like to
Mm.
see some of the we didn't see can you are you amazed that they didn't throw Deadpool in here yet? With the movie coming out in a couple of months, I'm surprised Deadpool was not front and center in at least one episode, and that to me is amazing. So, well, we'll see. There's still 2 episodes left, so maybe my prediction for a Deadpool appearance might come true. But uh, it's interesting. But definitely, they've been able to keep the whole feeling of the show and still they didn't even have to really update it as much as the animation style or for the update storylines. They didn't really have to do that. This is, like I said, this is all stuff Claremont wrote 30 years ago, still currently topical today. So
Yeah.
fantastic. Let's take a quick break. Catch these ads, and then we'll be back to talk some Bloodhunt. All right, make sure to check out Crisis on the Toyverse with Bobo. Every time they drop a new episode, love that show. All right, it's getting close to summertime. You know what that means? Events coming out of the woodwork, and we are going to talk about Blood Hunt.
Yes, sir.
Um, this
Written
is
by
this
Jed
is your
McLean.
pick for the week, and you jumped on this pick as soon as,
Yeah, it was
as
easy. It was easy because
yeah.
look, Marvel heavily promoted this event. They gave us free previews. They gave us a free comic book day. They gave us at least like 5 different covers for issue number one. Um, they went hard after it, and you know what? It's not that bad. I'm only kind of wondering if this was at one point supposed to be like tied in to whatever was going on in the Blade movie. Like maybe the Blade movie
Mhm.
was supposed to happen this summer, then it was like, oh, by the way, we got Bloodhunt.
Yeah.
But of course, Blade movie hasn't even started really shooting yet. But yeah, written by Jet McKay, art Pepe Larraz, color art Marte Gracia, letter by VC's Corey Petit. Look, we've got Scarlet Witch in here, Iron Man, Thor, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Vision, Captain America. We got most of the big Avengers and everything here, but we got the addition of some of the Moonlight's Midnight Mission team, the Hunter's Moon and Tigra, and then these other. They're not B type characters, but characters you wouldn't normally see with the Avengers, such as Spider-Man, Blade, who was in the Avengers books maybe like a year and a half ago, if not 2 years ago. Then we had Doc Strange, Clea, Doctor Doom. Starts out, boom, hey, the vampires are doing something crazy. They are covering up the sun somehow. Don't know how they did it. They cover up the sun somehow, and that allows vampires to run loose and just feast on anybody and everybody that's out. Um, and Avengers, of course, they're trying to do their thing and they're trying to stop it. They're trying to get everybody to safety and everything, but they're just overpowered because there's just too many freaking vampires. And of course, you normally have Blade, who's out there, but just doing his thing, trying to kill the vampires. But he's like, "Hey, Avengers, let's unite. Let's get up. Um, Regan, I'm on my way to you guys so we can coordinate and everything." And they're like, "Great, we'll have this portal open and everything so you can slide through." But instead of that, instead of those guys, instead of Blade slide through, you've got this new crew of actual other vampires, and they are basically badasses, right? The badasses of the vampire world, apparently, and they attack the Avengers. They wound a couple, they kill a couple. It's just mayhem.
Mm.
And then as there's this whole thing that's happening, this whole crazy thing is happening all over the world, right? Africa, Nigeria, Antarctica. I didn't. I don't know if it's happening in Antarctica, but eventually they find out who is because they're thinking, oh man, what the heck is Dracula doing? We thought we had at least some type of accord with the guy. Turned out it's not Dracula that's coordinating this whole thing. It's Blade. Which is crazy because, well, it's crazy because we've always known him as the anti-vampire vampires, right? But within the stuff that's been happening in the last year or so with him turning himself over to Dracula so he can get more powerful in order to do what he's been doing. Maybe this is finally the repercussions of your actions that I've always been begging for. Because say, okay, Blade does this thing and then game's over and then we don't care about vampires anymore. But maybe this is what we were looking for. Because let's face it, Marvel has had some good ideas, but they just keep messing it up, right? Like Morbius. That was a vampire freaking thing. They messed that whole thing up. Um, Bloodline, which was supposed to be Blade's daughter, um, which was an okay idea, maybe a great idea. We speculators were all over that, and then they messed it up because they didn't know what to do with it. Well, maybe I think what they're doing is they're trying to bring her back into the fold in this one. Let's see more what she can do, how she can maybe carry this whole thing forward, and everything. Um, but it's definitely bloody. I hope you got all those guys who bought it. I hope you guys got the bloody version because that's it's a little bit crazier than a normal version. Um, but this for me, the issue number one was definitely good. A little too much dialogue. I needed to see what was actually going on instead of hearing them talk about nothing. But what did you think, Professor?
So yeah, I'll tell you what I think about the book, but then I have a question for you about the whole two versions of the book. Um, so uh, I came in with this, and you kind of know how I feel about event books. I just kind of like, oh, geez, another event, and I can't stand events because they never stick the landing. They always start out great and kind of really suck you in, no pun intended, to the storyline, and and then they don't know how to wrap it up, so to speak. So I went in there very skeptical, very don't do this to me again, kind of thing. Um, and the benefit I think we get from this is Jed MacKay is currently writing Avengers and writing Moon Knight. So a lot of the characters that he's using are his own characters in this story. Um, so the thing that the overwhelming thought when I was reading this was, man, this is throwing Jed MacKay's overall vision for Avengers into the shitter right now, because he totally designed the whole story for his Kang story to have a specific lineup of Avengers, right? With the construct and the scientists and whatever the heck all the code words for all these people are. And then when you read this book, you're like, oh man, his Avengers lineup is toast. They get their asses handed to them. Uh, we see, we see Thor get a spike in the head. We see Black Panther basically ripped to pieces, right? So, and then you realize that they want to turn Sam into a vampire, so that he can lead the forces of night, so to speak. Uh, so at the end of this issue, there's only 4 Avengers left standing,
Yeah.
and they actually they have Scarlet Witch. They have Scarlet Witch. I don't know if she's dead or if they just have her. But um, the book really ends on a down note with Blade's turn and Doctor Strange getting a sword through the chest. You're just like, well, geez, they're coming in hot, right? Um, the book really was a very quick read. There was not a lot of stuff going on. You did say there was some dialogue, but pages of dialogue, but there was
Yeah.
also pages of no dialogue. So it was pretty quick to get through. There's a couple of plot threads in here that they didn't really touch on. The whole Moon Knight aspect that Jed MacKay was doing over in his book. That's going to come into play here because he just had, I guess, required reading would have been the vampire storyline they just did over in Moon Knight
Yeah.
a few months ago. Um, so that's why you see Midnight Sun and Tigra even on the cover of this book. You might wonder why the heck Tigra made the A list on the cover.
Weird,
Um,
right? Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, she's going to be probably a major player in this, but based on what's come before. The things I think that were kind of cool concept was somehow using all of the Dark Force characters and kind of overloading their powers and causing this whole blackout across the world. That's interesting. We've never seen anything kind of like that before. So that's pretty cool. Um, Blade Blade kind of turning and kind of seeming to be the bad guy at this point um, is interesting. If anybody caught the free comic book day Bloodhunt issue, you see that Bloodline, who doesn't appear in this issue, has allied herself with Dracula. So that's something that they didn't touch on in this book, but we'll see that's going to be that's going to be definitely a plot point going forward. Um, Interesting start, but like I said, I've been fooled before. Um, so I went into this going, I don't want to like this at all, but this was entertaining. This was, if you were to just pick this up off of the stands, you would definitely want to pick up issue 2, and that's really what they're going for here. So yeah, an event book for sure. The one thing that I'm really kind of, well, I mean, we've been kind of following McKay's Avengers run fairly closely, and we're 12 issues into that run, and this totally throws the run into the shredder as far as I'm concerned. Like how, like either that or you're just not buying into the fact that obviously they're not killing off Thor and Black Panther.
Yeah.
So at that point, I'm just like, well, why bother doing something like that if we know that that's not going to be how this book even ends. Um, but why would you do something like that? But eventually, I imagine we'll probably be having half of the Marvel Comics universe as vampires as opposed to symbiotes, which
Yeah,
they've overdone to death. So I'm along for the ride begrudgingly. We'll see. Um,
yeah.
I thought it was good.
Stuff.
McKay is really good at getting you into this. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Good stuff. This is what I want. This is I would if this was a movie,
Hmm.
I would definitely go to the theater to see this. Right?
Yeah.
This is the what was the Werewolf by Midnight thing that they it was that one shot. This is the direction that I wanted them to take the Avengers. I wanted the threat to be really freaking scary, right? Something that the Avengers really need to be handling, right? And I wanted them, of course, they're going to get their butts handed to them, right?
Hmm.
And that's fine. And killing Black Panther off right away, that was kind of weird. Even though I do want people to keep it back in mind that this is not the real Black Panther. The real Black Panther is like off in space still somewhere. And then there's another the Thor that's in the books right now. There's another Thor that's running around in his own book. That's a thing. So who these Avengers are, I'm not sure. And you also got to remember there's another Scarlet Witch that's going to get ready to show up anytime soon. So it's it's weird to look at this like this, knowing that in their own books there's different versions of these characters running around. So
Yeah.
it's weird. The only one that doesn't have an alternate version that's running around is Captain America right now. So maybe that's what's going on. I don't know, but maybe that's just me pulling weird spaghetti strings, trying to make some sense of all this. But you don't need to know it. It's just really good written, a really good first issue, and I liked it.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's all we can ask for these event books is to have a first issue that makes sense and that kind of gives you an idea of what things to come. I just, like I said, every event book, I just hope they stick the landing, make it a good 5 issue run, and by the end of issue 5, say, "Oh, that was a satisfying read that tied up all the plot lines and made sense, and I had fun, and there's a reason for this thing to exist." So hey, we'll see. I enjoyed it. Good start. Shout out to Jed Mackey because I'm sure it's tough to be trying to swim in your lane and then being editorially told, "Hey, you're hired to do this big event book," and try to make it seamless in your regular stuff plans that you had. So anyway, um, let's move on to the next book we're gonna do, and it looks like Lucas froze on me. Are you there, Lucas? All right. Well, maybe we're gonna be talking about Get Fury. Let's see if Lucas can come back in real quick, but let me see, because I'm technologically not savvy at all here. So I'll try to share my book. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. All right. All right. Well, since Lucas is the one, here he comes back in. There we go. All right.
Sorry about that.
I was saying I kept talking and you like disappeared for a second, but hopefully we'll get Al to edit that out. A minute of silence there. But we were just about ready to jump into the next book anyway.
Yes, sir. Just let's keep talking
Yeah.
as because oh, here we go.
Well, so here we go. So the other book that we're going to talk about is kind of a bit of change of pace, and this is why I want to talk about this book. This we're going to talk about Get Fury. It's a new limited series coming out with explicit
Yep.
content. So this is This is actually Marvel Max. Anybody remember Marvel Max from 20 years ago, where they tried to do adult comics and it kind of never really got off the floor? But every once in a while, you get a nice hot A-list writer that comes in whose specialty is kind of along the adult lines. Garth Ennis comes back to do a mini series here starring Nick Fury and the Punisher, Frank Castle. With We got pencils by Jason Burrows, inks by Guillermo Ortega and Nolan Woodward. Um, so this basically is a continuation or a sequel to the last Nick Fury / Punisher book. And forgive me, but I can't even remember the name of that limited series. But this is Get Fury. Basically, they find out that Nick Fury has been captured behind enemy lines, and the American government says, "Well, we can't let him talk, right? We have to take him out before he can talk to the enemy and reveal all the stuff that he knows." So, hey, who do you get? But you get Frank Castle, and they're gonna say, "Hey, Frank, you need to go behind enemy lines and take out Nick Fury before they make him talk." Um, Great simple plot, love it. Um, the thing about this is, I hope you didn't eat anything before you started reading this book or before you got to the end of this book, because as you're reading, Garth Ennis, we know his strong point is the ultra violence, right? You don't really get a lot of the ultra violence until the last 3 pages of this book. And hopefully you made it to the end, because it's so ultra gloriously violent in the last few pages that I was like, oh, and then it's over, and come back for issue 2. Um, this to me, a refreshing change of pace from the rest of the Marvel universe. Uh, it's there's no superpowers here, no capes. This is a grim and gritty back in Vietnam. It's set back in Vietnam, so um, you're not getting any superheroes coming in to save the day. You have Nick Fury, you have Frank Castle, and you know that by the time you hit issue 3 or 4, that it's just going to hit the fan, and as light as the violence was in this issue, um, it's coming, and
Yeah,
that's really what you get Ennis for, right?
yeah,
So it's to me. I thought this was a fantastic issue. I'm a huge fan of Garth Ennis. Basically anything that he does, because he does not write comics like a superhero comic writer
yeah,
does. So this was great. Can't recommend it highly enough. If you can stomach it, do it.
yeah. Garth Ennis, man, or is it Garth Ennis or Garth Ennis? I'll
Ennis.
say Guinness. Yeah, no, just doing the Garth Ennis things, man. I did like the introduction of, and he's been in the Marvel universe before, of the very real life character, no, Gwen Giap, who was,
Mhm.
man, this guy is a he was a communist military leader who was actually a schoolmarm. He was sent to China to get educated in military tactics. And the reason why they grabbed him as a teacher is because we were probably tracking actual military leaders, lieutenants, and everything. So when he went over there, we weren't really tracking this guy.
Hmm.
We weren't really freaking tracking this guy. We were like, oh, there's a teacher going to China, educational, but he comes back. Once again, he's just a teacher, just an educational guy. Comes back and then leads a whole a whole revolutionary army. His scraggly freaking guys, plus national Vietnam Army guys, gets them to freaking together and teaches them new guerrilla tactics, the ability to go up against tanks and helicopters and long range freaking artillery. He taught them how to hide. He taught them how to ambush, and he was very successful against French. He was. This is the guy that was on the ground when they got the French out of there. Okay, and then when we came in, he was the guy that led the biggest battle that let the Americans know, oh, this is really some actual stuff going on, as known as the Tet Offensive. This is the guy. This is the guy that gave us the biggest black eye
Hmm.
during that time frame, right? And he was doing this thing. He's like slow and steady is the race and blah blah blah. But of course, other actual military leaders from the Vietnam side wanted to do their thing and show their prowess. So that yeah, no, we're gonna do this thing. No, take your guys and let's do this thing. So he goes, okay. You guys go ahead and do this thing. By the way, I had this leg injury. I got this leg injury. So I'm going to go out to Hungary and get my leg fixed. What he was actually doing was meeting with the Chinese at the time, getting more stuff to do what he was going to do, getting more people, getting more money, getting more weapons and everything. So when the Vietnamese were failing without him, he comes back with all his new toys and then freaking really freaking ran the rack against us. And when he came back, he wasn't just going, oh, let's do military tactical. He was like, all right, now I have actual permission to kill all these freaking people, run, freaking chop them up, freaking interrogate, freaking, we're going to freaking, all this stuff where they're torturing and everything American. This is the guy that freaking brought new interrogation tactics to the Vietnamese when he comes back, right?
Hmm.
This is the guy who had brought intel and crystallography and crypto and everything to the Vietnamese that helped them freaking not necessarily just win, but sustain it and make it a really bloody affair because he knew that that really big bloody affair was what was really going to hit into the hearts of Americans. That guy, that old guy at the beginning, that old guy at the beginning is a really important military figure.
And he's the one telling the story too. So
Yeah, he's the one telling the story.
interesting.
So think about this. This is the guy, and of course they're going to meet up, and he's going to be more prominent in the story. You're going to see some of the stuff that Nick Fury is going to learn from this situation. You're going to see some stuff that Frank Castle is going to learn from the situation, and they are going to learn all this stuff from that guy. If they can
Hmm.
hold on to that concept, this is going to be a very good book, a very important book. Even though now we're in what 2020 and these guys are going to be too old for that stuff, but
Yep. That's
you know
that's that
that's
was
the
the
time.
other interesting thing in this book, was that uh, to basically set in 1971, right? And that was 52 years ago, and so that we know this is outside of continuity. So it's
Yes.
it is what it is. But I it's interesting. But this is totally Garth Ennis's strong point. So um, just let him do what he's going to do. If I wanted Garth Ennis to continue to work for my company, I would just say, do what you want. Don't try to edit him. Don't try to censor him. This book, that's one of the things. And then I'm going to get back to what I wanted to talk to you before about Bloodhunt,
Yeah.
um, because it's two different versions. There's I guess the clean version and the red band version. Um, do you think that this is just the beginning of what some like Marvel wants to do? Do you think that they want to get more adult with the ability to add extra pages for the shock factor, um, or make it more collectible, or uh, is this a way to just kind of milk or bleed the fans out of collecting two copies of the same book,
Yeah.
essentially?
It doesn't matter what I think because you know
I
why?
guess it
Because
doesn't.
it won, right? The number one book this week for speculators. Actually, it was two. There's one number one and one number six that Marvel had, and you probably can't see this. Actually, yes, you can see it. It's Blood Hunt. Actually, let me go ahead and see if I can blow myself up.
Is that the red line?
Yeah, so this is the 1 of 25 Thor Red Band book, right? So you got blood with Thor with blood coming out of his mouth and everything. Okay.
Okay.
Um, and the reason why the red bands are so important is because yes, they are bloodier, right? You do see more blood in the regular version. You see kind of like outlines of it, but you don't get you don't get like how bloody the situation was. You get body parts being cut in half inside of it. It's just a very bloody, and that's the way that people want it, right? Now I don't know how long they can go before it just becomes part of the normal background and people get tired of it. It's like, okay, whatever. I would give it 4 to 5 months, right?
Hmm.
Let them go hard for 4 to 5 months. Let it be a bloody summer, and then calm down, start telling a story, and then let's do it again in the springtime and the summertime. The- And I think they'll do really well. Like Get Fury, that was really well. The other
Yeah.
book, the other book that was pretty popular this week, and this one was like lobby number 6. Is this little beauty right here? This is the Deadpool. I guess it says World War III
Uh-huh.
Wolverine. I think that's the name of the thing. But this one in particular, as you can see, it's bagged,
Yeah.
right? That's because it's a one per store. So each store got one of these, and it's got. And the reason why it's different is because Wolverine is a zombie in this one, and he is cutting the crap out of freaking Deadpool.
Huh.
Um, but and that one is selling for hotcakes right now. It's selling for like 50 bucks, even though it was a free book for the retailers.
And well, and then if we want to go back a month, or even what's going on in Wolverine right now with the Sabretooth War, that's actually coming with an explicit content warning on it for readers. So we're getting into more, I guess, adult themed stuff. And I'm wondering if this is the way Marvel is going to go. Um, we've said this is a Max Comics version of Fury. Um,
Mhm.
and Max initially started publishing like 20 years ago. It just never got off the ground, right? They had
Yeah,
some mature reader type titles, nothing like DC's Vertigo, where that's where I began to love Garth Ennis doing Hellblazer and Preacher, and you just got out of his way and let him freaking do it. Here I don't think Marvel has the ability to get out of his way to do it, but
yeah.
it's interesting stuff. But
Well,
I did want to.
they, yeah. I mean, they absolutely have the. They should be able to do it, right? If they start taking these characters out of the superhero world and put them into the world that they belong and show the reason, the context for what they are needed. Pulling Nick Fury out because once again, Nick Fury is like an Amanda Waller type character where he's an intel collector type dude, right?
Mhm.
Who's got access to like all these operations and special missions and everything. Why they let him go into the heart of Vietnam only to get shot down? I don't know. That's crazy because you're supposed to have like other James Bond type characters out there. They're the ones that freaking collect the stuff and then bring it back to him. But all right, that's suspend
Well,
belief right now.
no, no, no. Nick Fury in World War II was a soldier, and he ran his own company, the Howling Commandos. So this was before he became the director of Shield. So here they this kind of he's not World War II anymore. He's Vietnam, just to kind of put him in his place here. But this is he is kind of like a James Bond director of Shield type thing, but he's always a soldier at heart. So
Yeah,
that to me, having him in the military greens, um, infantry, it fits him. So
yeah,
I'm not going to argue about that. But
yeah. If it fits both of these guys to put them in a hard fought battle type environment, that you know that man, and Garth Ennis did a real good job of showing the stakes. Like, hey, you may not make it out of here, man. And
yep,
then even then, right now, Frank Castle, his job right now is to be on Nick Fury's ass and kill him,
yep.
to find him and kill him, right?
Hmm.
Um, man, this is just really good writing. The only thing that kind of pre-ups it is that we know that these two individuals survive after this, but showing the ride of where they're going to take us is really great. The only thing that I don't like is that there was only two guys with uh with Fury at the time, and they've already killed those guys off.
Yep.
Maybe he should have gave like, hey, let's go with 7 or 8, kill two
Well,
guys, let's get to where we're going, and
s-
then
so they might throw him in a POW camp. So
yeah.
if they throw him in a POW camp, more fodder for the beast.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Let's jump into what's coming up. Let's do the seventh inning stretch. Now that we have 5 minutes, and show us what's up.
All right, so just a little change. We've already got the books that are on in excuse me, initial order cut off. These are books that are coming out in 2 months. There's some on coming out on July 10th. We got the Amazing Spider-Man. He is going to be the Spider Goblin. Here we go. It's got about what 7 or 8 different covers. There's Peter Parker as the Spider Goblin on the cover. Coming out on July 17th, we've got a great freaking cover with Wolverine from
Hmm.
Beyond Beren's Laura Kinney as Wolverine. Then we've got Daredevil Joshua Schwabe. There is a 1/100 of this one. It's a beautiful cover, but I'm not
I was gonna
feeling
say,
paying $200 to $300 for that one. But this one is really beautiful. This one is a 1 in 25. Daredevil Woman Without Fear by Tran and Gwen. Ultimate X-Men still has some intrigue with it. I have no idea who that little girl with the little rabbit ears is. Um, but apparently maybe she shows up in number 4, which would make her first cover.
hmm,
Oh, excuse me. Coming out July 24th, we've got Venom, Aspiration, Anxiety. This one is an Alex Maleev 1 in 25. Then there's going to be a Wolverine number 88 facsimile foil. Oh. Vengeance of Moon Knight. We just talked about Tigra, right? This one is a 1 in 25, Mike Mayhew.
when did they give her an actual costume? That stinks. She should be in the bathing suit 24/7. And I'm just showing my age here, but I don't care.
Fantastic Four. We answers the question: what happens when Reed gets bitten by freaking vampires, man? Um,
Apparently, nothing.
NYX number 1 is coming back. They've got a group of the young mutants in this book to include Kamala Khan. But this is a beater right here. And NYX number 1 art germ. There is a 1 in 100 of this one. July 31st, X Force is going to be the first appearance of a new character called the Tank. There's your David Nakayama. And then there's your 1 in 100 by Crane Forge, or by Clayton Crane of Forge.
Hmm.
There's also a Star Wars Darth Maul 1 in 25.
I guess if there was ever a character that needed a black, white, and red book, that's Darth Maul.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Great, good book so far. Free comic book day for those that miss it. These are the top ones from Marvel. You had the free comic book day Bloodhunt, and then you had Star Wars, and then you had the Ultimate Spider-Man book, which was the first appearance of Ultimate Torch. And then I don't have a cover for it here, but there also was a Marvel Voices that people were seeming to like. Here are some of the books that just came out. You had your Bloodhunt number 1, the Red Band, and then Spider Woman number 7, the Todd Knock. This is the first appearance of this new group that's coming out. I forget the names of these characters, but this is not the first cover appearance of these individual characters. Each character had a new champion variant that was out there. They just weren't in the book. And Spider Woman number 7, they are inside this book, so people are hunting for this Todd Knock variant. This one is going for 35 to 50 right now. It's
Wow.
not even an incentive. It's just so if you if you have a smaller freaking shop and they haven't sold it, grab this one. Then you had your Ultimate Spider-Man number 1. This is the 5th print that's sold out by Mark Gicchetto.
That's crazy, huh?
Yeah,
I kind of been
different.
liking Ultimate Spider-Man, but it just seems to me like it's still it's still to me the same old let's retell the origin, but but to turn the origin on its ear. But
Yeah,
it's I mean, good book.
fifth print, a
Yeah.
fifth print, and now we got a sixth print, which will probably sell out.
Wow.
X Men Weapon X Men number 13, the Yellow Drea. Freaking, I do like this cover, but we'll see what's going on with this book. And then stuff that's on FOC, Amazing Spider-Man number 51. These big Marvel books. Keep an eye out for these big Marvel books because I've seen a lot of action on these on eBay. They haven't come out yet, but people are buying the crap out of these books done by Scotty Young.
Yeah.
Blood Hunt number 3 is going to be on FOC. I got my eye on this 1/100 Del Auto as a connecting cover.
Looks like Thor's better.
Yeah, but unfortunately we can't go by these covers sometimes. Also for Blood Hunt number 3, there's a Peach Momoko looks really good.
I wish that I could get into Peach Momoko, but a lot of the times I'm just like I don't know why she's a thing. But anyway.
Yeah, it's a tendency towards the more anime-ish type deal, but it would be one thing if she just did her typical anime style, but she also uses the watercolor, which kind of fleshes it out a little bit more. But yeah, a lot of people really it's either you're either not I really like her or I really don't like her stuff type camp.
I just I you know I just want to understand what so like some of the stuff that she does it's just like it's like interpretive almost like you have to look at it and study it before you even understand what the heck she was going for. This
Yeah,
not I'm not talking about these particular covers where it's Captain Marvel. Some of that stuff like with Ultimate X-Men I was like I don't get what she's trying to tell me.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and this one, the reason why it really does work so well is because once again, we're talking about the blood smear, and where the way the watercolor kind of smears the blood in a very unnatural but natural looking way is what makes this book pretty good.
yeah.
Then of course there is a red band for this one. This one is a little what the F is for me because Miles Morales literally just a few months ago had a series with Blade and his daughter, and they gave him a vampire suit to protect him from getting bitten by vampires. Yet here he's now a vampire. So
Well, who gave him the suit?
Blade. So
Yeah, there you
maybe
go.
some trickery right now. Ghost Fighter Final Vengeance number 4. This one is a Lozano. I think yeah, Jeff Lozano or some, actually might not be Jeff Lozano. But then
Alexander
there's your
Lozano.
yeah big Marvel Scotty Young. And then a second print for that Star Wars Darth Maul Black, White, and Red number 1. This one is the 1 in 25.
Hmm.
Wolverine Blood Hunt. This one is Eastman.
It's Kevin Eastman.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that kind of looks turtley, but it is turtley. So,
All right, here we go with some of the books that are coming out this week. What's the date for this week? The 8th. Daredevil. This one is a regular cover, and I believe there might be a 1 in 25. But this one, even though it says in stock at the distributor level, I've seen several stores they are already sold out.
hmm.
Dracula as a book. This one is by Mateus Manahini. Mateus Manahini has a lot of his own fans that are out there and that love his stuff. Venom has a freaking book. You need to go to the pedicurist because the tales are too damn long.
So over Venom.
And Wolverine. This one is a David Nakayama the Black Suit special.
I don't like that
And
costume.
yeah,
I hate that costume.
it's kind of slimming.
It's skin tight.
Yeah. And then X-Men 97, the second print for issue number one. This one is already sold out in several circles. And that was your seventh inning stretch.
All
Thank
right. All right. Well, Lucas, thanks for joining me for this episode of No Price Podcast.
you.
Thank
Oh,
you very
thank
much.
you.
And yeah, join us again next time we'll talk. We'll be talking about the end of X-Men 97 instead
Mhm.
of what else is going on. And then hopefully we'll still be liking Bloodhunt and that it had not taken a left turn uh, quickly.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll see how it is. All right. Thank you for joining us for this episode of No Price Podcast. And until I see you again, stay safe.